At 6:14 p.m. on the evening of my 70th birthday, my son sent me 9 words that undid 30 years of believing I understood my family. Pipe burst at the Ashford site. Can't make it. Sorry. No call. 1 period after sorry, firm as a latch. I stood in my kitchen in Willowmere with chicken piccata cooling on the stove. Marcus had mentioned in June that he missed his father's Sunday night recipe, so I had taken James's card from the tin, the one with a coffee ring over the word flour and his cramped note beside the capers, 3 tablespoons, don't be shy, and driven 40 minutes for the kind packed in salt. The table was set for 4. Marcus had asked whether Renata and Lily could come. I had bought Lily sparkling cider and a lemon cake with 70 piped across the top. Chocolate had been James's favorite. At 70, I had finally ordered the cake I wanted. I called Marcus. He answered on the 5th ring. Mom, hey. I'm sorry. A supply line let go on the 3rd floor. Water's coming through the unit below. His words came low and fast, the voice he used when he wanted a conversation finished before it began. Do you need the inspector's emergency number? I still know Ellen in that office. Number no, we've got it. Someone laughed near him. Glass touched glass. And Renata? Lily? Wren took her mom to a thing. Lily's studying at a friend's. We'll do something this weekend, I promise. All right, I said. Don't wait up. He hung up before I could hear how absurd that sounded. He was 44. But the phrase belonged to an older arrangement between us. I left the porch light on. Marcus came home eventually. Forgiveness was waiting before he crossed the threshold. The refrigerator gave its small mechanical sigh. I covered the chicken, slid the cake beneath its dome, and removed 3 settings. My own plate looked stranded at the end of the table. At 7:32 p.m., I put on the green wool coat James said made me look as if I were about to deliver bad news kindly. I drove to Camden's. James and I had celebrated our 35th anniversary there, and I preferred a public table for 1 to a private table for 4 with 3 people missing. The hostess found an old account under Whitfield. Table for 1, Mrs. Whitfield? Just me. Are we celebrating? I almost spared her the truth. Then I decided the evening had already been edited enough. My birthday. Then dessert is on us. Halfway through the dining room, I heard my son laugh. Marcus's guilty laugh always began half a beat too loudly and ended with his hand at the back of his neck. I had heard it after he dented my Buick at 16 and when he described his first business investment as basically guaranteed. He sat in a curved booth beneath a painting of sailboats. No wet work shirt. No emergency. He wore the charcoal suit I had bought for Lily's confirmation. Renata, in cream, sat close beside him. Her mother, Diane Castellano, held a champagne flute above a leather portfolio spread open on the table. Among the papers were color photographs of my cottage at Lake Wren. I recognized the fieldstone chimney James had rebuilt twice and the dark green shutters I painted every 5th spring whether they needed it or not. The hostess looked back. Would you prefer somewhere quieter? Yes, please. She seated me behind a partition crowded with ferns. Through the leaves, Diane's voice carried. To Friday, she said. And to making the dead weight work for us. Renata tapped the open folder. Once the title company accepts the transfer package, the lender can issue the final bridge commitment before the balloon date. Marcus kept his glass on the table. She may read it this time. She doesn't read everything when you say it's routine. She used to trust me with routine things. She. Not Mom. Diane leaned forward. Fatigue showed beneath her makeup, a grayness I had not noticed at Christmas. Castellano Manor has 23 people on payroll. 23. Your mother has a pension, a paid-off home, and a lake property empty most of the year. If sentiment matters more to her than those families, remind her what Lily stands to lose. A waiter passed between us. When he cleared, Renata had turned a page. I caught an appraisal figure, 610,000, and a block of capital letters near the signature line, Eleanor J. Whitfield, grantor. Below it was another line, Wren Legacy Holdings, LLC, grantee. The cottage was already in my revocable trust. I had never heard of Wren Legacy Holdings. I ordered salmon and asked for a pen. On the back of a drink coaster I wrote, Friday, 10 a.m. Meridian title. $610,000. Bridge loan. Balloon, 28th. Wren Legacy Holdings. Estate planning meeting is cover. 3 years earlier, before hip surgery, I had signed a durable power of attorney naming Marcus as my agent. It allowed him to pay bills, deal with insurance, and manage property if I needed help. My old lawyer had included restrictions against self-dealing, gifts to Marcus, and transfers to any company in which Marcus or Renata had an interest. I recovered in 11 weeks and resumed managing my affairs. The document stayed in a green folder in James's study. I had mistaken disuse for safety. The hostess brought chocolate torte with 1 candle. I didn't want the whole room singing unless you did. This is perfect. In the black window, the flame floated over the reflection of Marcus's booth. Diane signed the restaurant check. Renata closed the portfolio. Marcus looked toward the glass and saw me. Recognition, calculation, fear. Mom? He was out of the booth before I stood. What are you doing here? Having dinner. The pipe recovered quickly. Renata rose and pressed the portfolio to her ribs. This was a business discussion for my mother's company. We plan to celebrate you this weekend. Diane folded her napkin. No one needs a scene. Then we agree. Marcus lowered his voice. Let me come over tomorrow and explain. Friday at 10 will be soon enough. Renata's grip tightened. How do you know about Friday? Your champagne is getting warm. I walked out carrying the untouched torte in a white box. Marcus called before I reached my car. I let it ring. At home, I read every page of the power of attorney. On page 6, the restriction was where I remembered it. On page 9, a clause I had forgotten allowed the agent to retain property managers and open accounts for my benefit. It did not authorize a transfer to his family's company. It did, however, explain how he might have made paperwork look ordinary long enough for strangers to rely on it. I photographed the power of attorney, trust, and deed. At James's desk I dated a legal pad and wrote a timeline. Teachers learn early that memory becomes persuasive only after it is organized. At 8:52 p.m., Marcus texted, "Please don't misread tonight. Friday is about simplifying things." At 9:04 p.m., Renata wrote, "The cottage stays yours in every way that matters. This protects Lily too." At 9:15 p.m., Diane wrote, "James understood that property should serve the living, not gather dust and memories no one can spend." I printed all 3 messages. Then I searched the state business registry. Wren Legacy Holdings, LLC had been formed 11 weeks earlier. Its registered office was Marcus and Renata's home. Renata was listed as manager. At 10:27 p.m., I found a calendar invitation Marcus had sent me 5 days before. Estate plan check-in, Meridian Title Conference Room. I had accepted without reading past the subject line. At 10:41 p.m., I emailed Meridian Title from the address on its website. I am Eleanor J. Whitfield, trustee and owner of the Lake Wren property referenced in a meeting scheduled Friday at 10. I do not consent to any deed, mortgage, transfer, or title order. Please preserve all documents and communications bearing my name and confirm receipt. I copied myself, printed the email, and placed it behind the coaster. Only then did I cut a slice of my lemon cake. I ate it at the table I had set for 4 while my phone vibrated against the counter. I did not yet know that my cottage had been rented for weddings under another name. I did not know someone had copied my signature onto a management authorization. I did not know my son would soon ask a judge to remove my control over my own money. But Friday's meeting had already changed. I had changed it. At 8:03 a.m. the next morning, Meridian Title's compliance officer called. Mrs. Whitfield, my name is Caroline Boss. We received your email. I've placed an internal hold on the file while we verify authority. No deed has recorded through our office. The relief lasted exactly 1 breath. Has a deed been signed? Silence gathered on her end. A proposed trustee's deed and supporting certification were submitted. I can't give legal advice. You should retain counsel immediately. Who ordered the title work? The prospective lender's counsel, based on an authorization from your attorney in fact. Please send me whatever you are permitted to send as the property owner and trustee. And preserve the rest. She agreed. I wrote down each sentence after we hung up. James and I had met in 1981 over a condemned porch. He was a junior architect, I was a first-year English teacher tutoring adults at night. The homeowner refused to lose railings she had painted herself in 1958. James said the joists were rotten. I argued that rotten joists did not make every board worthless. He found a repair that preserved half the railing. 6 months later, over dinner, he admitted he had been thinking about the porch, and me, ever since. James never confused sentimental with unsound. That distinction sat beside me while I called 3 lawyers. Priya Shah returned my call at 8:46 a.m. She had practiced real estate litigation before moving into elder financial abuse cases. Her questions were brisk. Is the property in your individual name or a trust? Trust. I'm trustee. Is your son a successor trustee? Yes, upon my incapacity or death. Not now. Does the power of attorney authorize changes to the trust? Number any chance you signed a deed and forgot? There is always a chance a person has forgotten something. There is no chance I voluntarily signed my cottage to an LLC registered at my son's house. She paused. Good answer. Bring the originals, identification, your timeline, and every message. Don't warn them what you're doing. I already warned the title company. That was the right warning. Her office occupied the 2nd floor above a pharmacy. I arrived at 10 with 2 binders. Priya read the power of attorney twice, then placed 1 finger beside the self-dealing restriction. This is strong. It still needs to be revoked properly. Revocation does not unwind everything automatically, and third parties need notice. We notify your banks, insurer, recorder, title company, and anyone we identify in the transaction. Draft it. I can have it ready this afternoon. Have it notarized by 1. I have a bank appointment at 2. Priya looked up. You made a bank appointment? Marcus once helped with an insurance draft from the cottage account. If he used that account again, I want the statements before anyone decides they are inconvenient. She smiled for the first time. You're going to make me work to remain useful. That is what I'm paying you for. The bank's branch manager printed 24 months of statements. Deposits had appeared in irregular clusters, $2,800, $4,250, $6,100. Each was followed within days by a transfer labeled WH Property Services. I knew the name. It was Marcus's small construction and maintenance company. Who added online access? I asked. The manager brought in a fraud specialist by video. Access was certified last November using the power of attorney we had on file. Certified by whom? Your son presented the document and identification. The access itself may have been within the banking powers. The issue is how the account was used. Freeze outgoing electronic transfers. Leave ordinary deposits open until counsel tells me otherwise. Replace the account number if you can do so without losing the records. At 1:07 p.m., Marcus appeared in the bank lobby. He stopped when he saw my binders. Mom. Please. You're turning bookkeeping into a crime. Whose bookkeeping? The cottage generated some income. I managed it. The money covered upkeep. $6,100 arrived on June 5. $5,800 left for your company on June 7. What work did you perform? His eyes moved to the branch manager, then back to me. I don't have invoices in my head. Bring them tomorrow. Renata thought. You were my agent. I was trying to keep things moving. There it was, motion offered as morality. Who rented my house? He rubbed the back of his neck. Mostly referrals. Small events. It was sitting empty, and the taxes went up, and you said after Dad died that you couldn't stand being there. I said I couldn't sleep there that summer. I thought one season would get everyone level. Then the manor expansion ran over, and the lender, he stopped. One more step? I asked. His face changed. When Marcus was a boy, I had cleared every road before him. I wrote the landlord letters. I called the coach. I negotiated the refund after his first partner cheated him. James warned me that a child rescued from every consequence grows into an adult who mistakes rescue for the natural order. I had called it love. Marcus lowered his voice. If you pull everything now, 23 people could lose work. Did those 23 people vote to use my name? He had no answer. I signed the revocation at 1:22 p.m. The bank acknowledged it and removed Marcus's access going forward. Priya arranged formal notice to Meridian Title, the county recorder, the insurer, and the lender identified in the title file. Then I ordered my own title search. No deed had recorded. No mortgage encumbered the cottage. But two memoranda appeared in the title company file, a proposed transfer to Wren Legacy Holdings and a lender's conditional commitment that treated the cottage as bridge collateral once title vested in the LLC. The commitment expired on the 28th, the balloon date I had heard at Camden's. They had not taken my house. They had built a transaction around the expectation that I would sign, or that Marcus's authority would pass inspection long enough for someone else to accept his signature. The difference mattered legally. It did little for my pulse. At 4:18 p.m. an email arrived from an address I did not recognize. Mrs. Whitfield, I manage events for North Lake celebrations. We were told all owner questions should go through Marcus Whitfield. We have a Saturday wedding at Wren House. Is it cancelled? Attached was a photograph of my porch under an arbor of white roses. My pantry door stood open behind it. I drove to Lake Wren the next morning before sunrise. Priya objected only long enough to make me promise not to confront anyone alone. I told her the property was mine, the locks might already be changed, and evidence had a habit of becoming decor if given sufficient warning. The cottage sat at the end of a gravel lane, cedar dark among the pines. A white delivery van was parked beside the woodshed. Two men carried folded chairs toward my porch. Morning, I said. Who authorized setup? One checked a clipboard. North Lake. Wedding tomorrow. You with the owner? I am the owner. He looked at the cottage, then the clipboard, as if one of us had to be mistaken. The old brass key turned, but only after I lifted the door by its handle. Inside, 12 round tables filled the living room. My blue sofa had been moved against the wall. James's drafting lamp was unplugged and wrapped in plastic. A laminated card beside the fireplace read Wren House, and exclusive Castellano Manor property. In the kitchen, champagne glasses filled the counters. The pantry door was gone. For several seconds I stared at the empty hinges. Where is the door? The event manager, a woman named Cassidy, came in behind me. The rustic one? We removed it for traffic flow. It's stored in the boathouse. I walked there without waiting. The door lay on 2 sawhorses beneath a canvas drop cloth. Pencil marks ran up one edge: Lily, age 4, Lily, 5.5, Lily, 7, shoes on because she cheated, and the last line James had drawn with a shaking hand. A temporary beverage menu had been screwed across the center. My fingers found the indentation made by the bottom screw. Cassidy stood in the doorway. Mrs. Whitfield, I'm sorry. We were shown an owner authorization. Show me. On her tablet was a 3-page property management agreement. My name appeared at the bottom in a signature copied from my trust certification. I recognized the peculiar open loop in the E. I also recognized the day I had been in Baltimore with my sister. Marcus's signature appeared as authorized agent. Renata had signed for Wren Legacy Holdings, described as the property management company. Email this to me and my lawyer. Preserve every booking, invoice, photograph, message, and payment record. Do not alter anything. What about tomorrow's couple? Through the boathouse window, I saw boxes of white roses. Somewhere 2 families believed they were coming to a lawful venue. Move them to Castellano Manor at the contracted price. If the manor cannot accommodate them, rent another venue and send the bill to Wren Legacy Holdings. The wedding is not their wrongdoing. Cassidy's shoulders lowered. Thank you. Put my door back first. I helped carry it. At 70, I could still hold one end of a pantry door. Cassidy removed the beverage menu and apologized each time the drill backed out a screw. By noon, North Lake had delivered its archive to Priya: 14 months of bookings, 11 weddings, 6 anniversary dinners, 3 corporate retreats, and a lakeside vow renewal conducted while I believed the cottage was closed for a septic repair. Gross receipts were $118,400. Most client payments entered the cottage account, then moved through Marcus's company and Wren Legacy Holdings. Some expenses were genuine: cleaning, insurance riders, plumbing, a repaired dock board. Many were not. A $14,000 site development fee had gone directly to Castellano Manor. The forged signature appeared on the management agreement, 2 vendor authorizations, and an insurance certificate request. The proposed deed bore no completed signature yet. Someone had prepared the line and expected to obtain or imitate it later. I made a spreadsheet myself. Date. Booking. Deposit. Transfer. Claimed expense. Supporting invoice. I left blank cells blank. Priya watched me work. Most clients want to tell me how they feel. I know how I feel. I don't yet know which $5,000 transfer paid for linens and which paid Diane's balloon note. At 3, a bank investigator joined us. He did not promise arrests or use dramatic words. He asked for originals, explained that the bank would review whether its procedures had been followed, and said suspicious transactions could be referred to appropriate authorities. That was enough reality for one afternoon. Marcus called 7 times. On the 8th, I answered. Are you at the cottage? I was. Renata says vendors are calling the manor. Diane is having chest pains. Has she called a doctor? You know what I mean. I have spent much of my life knowing what you mean. Say what you mean now. He breathed into the receiver. We used the rental revenue to keep the manor current. The bridge loan would repay the cottage account and consolidate everything. Your trust would get units in the LLC. Nobody planned to take it from you. Why copy my signature? I didn't. Too quick. Who did? I don't know. Who gave North Lake my trust certification? Mom, please. We were one closing away from fixing it. One more step. Bring every invoice to Priya's office by 5 tomorrow. And then? Then I decide what truth costs. The invoices arrived by courier at 4:52 p.m. the next day. Marcus did not. At 5:19 p.m., Priya received notice that Marcus and Renata had filed an emergency petition seeking a temporary conservator for me. Their petition said my grief had worsened into confusion, that I had forgotten authorizing cottage rentals, that I was impulsively canceling contracts, that I had accused family members of forgery, and that my actions threatened my estate and Lily's education. Attached was a photograph of my dining table on my birthday, for places set, though everyone had cancelled. The caption read, "Evidence of increasing confusion regarding family plans." I looked at that photograph for a long time. Marcus had taken it weeks earlier, when I texted him to ask whether the blue napkins looked too dark with the white plates. He had turned my hope into an exhibit. The petition contained more than the photograph. Someone had converted ordinary lapses into a chronology. In February, I had arrived at Lily's school concert on Thursday when the performance was Friday. In April, I had called Marcus twice about a plumber, forgetting that the first call went to voicemail. In July, I bought 2 jars of capers because one was hidden behind a bag of flour. Each incident was true. Together, under a heading that read Progressive Cognitive Concerns, they became a counterfeit diagnosis. I opened my calendar. The concert invitation Marcus forwarded had listed the wrong date before the school corrected it. My phone log showed a single completed plumber call. The second jar of capers was still sealed and carried a sale sticker. Buying 2 had saved $4. I began a third binder. Not because every accusation deserved an answer. Because small truths had been recruited into a large lie, and I knew how effective that could be. For 31 years, I had taught students to distinguish evidence from interpretation. Now my family had given me the examination. At 7 that evening, someone knocked. I saw Marcus through the side window and did not open the door. "Mom, I know you're there." "Then you know I'm not answering." He stayed on the porch. "The emergency petition isn't permanent. The lawyer said it creates breathing room." "For whom?" "For all of us." "You are standing at my locked door asking a court for my keys." "That's not fair." "It is unusually precise." His shadow moved across the frosted glass. "Renata is terrified. Diane hasn't slept. Lily thinks we're monsters." "What do you think?" He did not answer immediately. "I think this got bigger than what we intended. Things do not grow documents by themselves. If you would sit down with the lender, good night, Marcus. Dad would hate this." My hand tightened around the deadbolt. "Your father hated cowardice dressed as peacekeeping. You may remember it differently." He left an envelope beneath the mat. Inside was a proposed family settlement. I would ratify past rentals, allow the cottage to guarantee a reduced loan for 18 months, and agree that Marcus had acted in good faith. In return, they would suspend, not withdraw, the conservatorship petition. I wrote NO across the first page, scanned it for Priya, and kept the original. Priya read the petition twice, slower the second time. Emergency relief is a high bar, she said. They're asking for access to financial accounts and authority to preserve contracts until a full hearing. The court may appoint an evaluator. We respond with evidence, not outrage. I have evidence. You also have 2 vulnerabilities. She slid forward a county notice. The prior year, I had paid the cottage property tax 6 weeks late. I remembered the envelope beneath a stack of condolence cards after James's sister died. Penalties totaled $83. The second vulnerability was harder. My insurance file included 3 different answers about whether the cottage had been rented. I had told my agent occasionally after Marcus assured me there had been 2 family referrals. North Lake's archive showed 20 events. To a judge, Priya said, "This can look like failure to oversee valuable property." Because I did fail to oversee it. You were deceived. Both things may be true. I wanted clean innocence. The paperwork would not give it to me. I had signed broad authority because surgery frightened me. After I recovered, I left it in place because revocation felt like an accusation against a son I loved. I allowed Marcus to receive mail at the cottage, accepted his summaries, and waved away invoices when he said he had handled them. Borrowed authority depends upon someone lending it. I had lent mine carelessly. That afternoon I made 3 appointments myself, a geriatric evaluation with Dr. Ada Okafor, an independent accounting review, and a locksmith for the cottage. Priya had suggested the categories. I chose the professionals after checking credentials and conflicts. Dr. Okafor asked about medications, sleep, grief, driving, cooking, bills, and whether anyone had pressured me about money. She tested recall, attention, planning, language, and judgment. At one point she said 5 words and asked me to remember them later. Teacher, I said. River, velvet, penny, orange. I haven't asked you to repeat them yet. You will. She smiled. 40 minutes later, I recalled 4. I missed velvet. My stomach dropped. Dr. Okafor did not rescue me from the feeling. Normal cognition is not flawless cognition. Anxiety changes performance. We look at the whole pattern and functioning over time. Will you write that? I will write what the examination supports. Her report found no evidence of dementia or inability to manage my affairs. It noted mild age-consistent retrieval delay, intact executive function, and situational insomnia after an acute family conflict. She recommended a medication review and better sleep, not a conservator. That evening Lily called from an unfamiliar number. Grandma? It's the counselor's office phone. I asked Ms. Foster if I could call you without using my cell. Mom keeps checking it. She's outside with the door open. Are you safe? Yes. Everybody keeps asking me questions like the answer is supposed to choose a side. You do not have to choose me. Dad said you forgot we were busy on your birthday. He said he reminded you twice. I sat down at James's desk. He told me a pipe burst. Lily was quiet. Were you studying at a friend's? I asked. Mom told me Grandma Diane needed a family meeting. They left me with takeout. Dad said he would stop by your house first, but then he didn't. Thank you for telling me. You do not need to collect anything or listen at doors. If an adult asks you to carry messages, say no. Are they trying to take the lake house? They tried to use it without asking. I am stopping them. Mom says it belongs to everyone because Grandpa wanted us all there. A place can welcome everyone and still belong to someone. She sniffed. Can I still see my marks on the pantry door? Yes. I did not tell her about the screw holes. Grandma? Yes? Happy birthday. Late. But not pretend late. I mean it. After we hung up, I wrote the call in my timeline but did not ask Lily to sign a statement. Priya agreed. A child's truth should not become ammunition merely because adults had made a war around her. The following Monday, Renata came to my house. She stood on the porch in a navy coat, no makeup, hair tied low. I came alone. Your lawyer knows? Number mine will. I texted Priya that Renata was present, then opened the door. We sat in the kitchen. Renata looked at the 4 small holes where the telephone had once hung before I remodeled, perhaps because looking at me was harder. My mother missed payroll twice when I was 12, she said. The cooks brought groceries because they knew our refrigerator was empty. I heard her beg a linen supplier not to repossess tablecloths. Do you know how humiliating that is for a child? Yes. She glanced up, surprised. Humiliation is not rare, Renata. Children simply think theirs is. Her mouth tightened. The matter isn't a vanity project. Those employees have kids. The expansion was supposed to add winter events, but the contractor defaulted, costs rose, and then 3 weddings cancelled. The bank called the note. Marcus said the cottage could cover the gap temporarily. Did you copy my signature? We had a scanned trust certification. North Lake needed something before the first event. You had already given Marcus authority. That does not answer me. I assembled the form. Marcus said you had agreed to rentals in principle. Did you paste my signature onto it? Her hands lay flat on the table. Yes. The word barely had sound. Why? Because the house was idle. Because you would never sell it, never develop it, barely stay there, but everyone was supposed to treat it like a shrine. Family property should protect the family. Whose family? All of us. Then why did none of you ask Lily whether her inheritance should secure your mother's debt? Color rose in her face. Lily would inherit a stronger business too. You never asked because you could not control my answer. And you convert every memory of James into a veto. The sentence hurt because some portion of it was true. I had kept his boots in the cottage closet for 6 years. I still bought the marmalade he liked and let it expire. Sometimes I do, I said. That did not make my signature yours. Renata looked toward the dining room. If the manor dies, my mother loses the house attached to it. Employees lose work. Marcus's company may go down with the guarantees. We could lose our home. You should have told me. Would you have helped? I don't know. That was the answer you could not control. She stood. The petition is meant to pause you until everyone can think. A conservator is not a pause button. You cancelled a wedding overnight. I moved it at their expense to protect the couple. You asked a court to take my choices because you disliked them. At the door she turned. Marcus believes one clean closing would have repaid everything. Marcus has believed in one more step since he was 16. You taught him someone would catch him. Then she left. I stood with my hand on the doorknob. That, too, contained enough truth to hurt. Diane asked to meet 2 days later. Priya arranged it in her conference room with counsel present. Diane arrived in the burgundy blazer from Camden's, though one cuff was frayed. She placed a payroll ledger on the table. 23 names, she said. Some have been with me 15 years. I believe you. The new ballroom was 70% complete when the contractor folded. We borrowed against future bookings. Then a bride posted mold photographs from a wall the contractor had opened and failed to seal. The photographs spread. Refunds came due at the same time as the balloon payment. Her lawyer touched her arm. She removed it. I built the manor from a motel where people rented rooms by the week because they had nowhere else to go. Renata did homework behind the front desk. I cannot let it die as a cautionary tale people whisper over cocktails. There it was, almost a confession, except pride rearranged it before it reached the table. You could have shown me the ledger before showing a lender my cottage. And let you decide whether my employees deserved rescue? Yes. She leaned back. James would have understood leverage. James is not here to agree with either of us. Leave him out of this. For the first time, Diane looked ashamed. Previous questions established that Diane had received $31,000 traceable to cottage rentals. Diane called it an intercompany advance. No note documented it. No repayment had occurred. Her counsel proposed restitution over 5 years if I supported refinancing. No cottage collateral, I said. No title transfer. Full accounting. The petition withdrawn. After that, we can discuss a repayment schedule. Diane's expression hardened. If we withdraw now, you refer Renata for forgery. I have already given records to the bank investigator. I cannot promise what institutions or authorities do. I can promise I will tell the truth. The meeting ended without agreement. Marcus waited in the parking lot. He wore James's blue tie, the one I had given him after the funeral. The knot sat crooked. You shouldn't wear that to manipulate me, I said. His hand went to it. I wear it when I'm scared. Your father wore it when he was scared too. Mom, tell me how to fix this. For 44 years, that sentence had been my summons. Tell the complete truth under oath. That could destroy Renata. So could the lie. Lily's barely speaking to us. Then stop asking her to live inside your explanation. He stared through the windshield of his truck. I signed the management papers as agent. Renata attached your signature because North Lake's insurer wanted the owner too. I told her it was temporary. I said we would get your signature properly with the transfer documents. Did you tell the lender I was having memory problems? They asked why you hadn't signed yet. I said you were inconsistent after Dad died. And the petition? Our lawyer said your cancellations could trigger claims and that we needed to preserve value. Your lawyer did not invent the facts in your affidavit. He flinched. I thought if the court appointed a neutral person for 30 days, the closing could happen and everything would be paid back. Then we would end it. A stranger would control my accounts so you could complete a transaction I rejected. When you say it like that, how should I say it? He pulled at the tie knot. 1 more month. That's all I kept thinking. 1 more document, 1 more event, 1 more month, and no one would ever have to know how close it got. Everyone close to you already knows. What happens if I testify? Consequences. And after? I looked at him, my only child, his father's tie crooked at his throat, waiting for me to clear the road. After depends on what you carry yourself. He drove away without promising anything. The forensic accountant completed a preliminary schedule. Of $118,400 in gross rentals, about $42,000 could be tied to legitimate cottage expenses and event costs. Roughly $56,000 flowed to Marcus's company, Wren Legacy Holdings, or the manor without adequate support. The remaining amount sat in deposits, refunds, and fees still being reconciled. The numbers were damaging. They were not cinematic. No hidden millions appeared, and no suitcase of cash waited beneath anyone's bed. A business had failed by degrees. A family had responded with shortcuts, then documents, then a court petition. Harm often accumulates in amounts small enough to excuse one at a time. 3 nights before the hearing, I found an error in my own spreadsheet. I had assigned a $7,200 transfer to the matter, but an invoice showed that it paid for septic repairs at the cottage. I corrected the cell, notified Priya and the accountant, and added a note explaining my mistake. Priya called. Opposing counsel may use the correction to say you can't track the account. Then they may use it. You're certain? If accuracy only matters when it helps me, I am doing the same thing they did. That night I slept 6 hours, the longest since Camden's. The emergency review took place the following morning by video. Judge Brooks had 40 minutes, affidavits from both sides, and no patience for speeches. She declined to appoint a temporary conservator or give anyone control of my accounts. She did, however, freeze the disputed cottage account except for taxes, insurance, and necessary repairs. She ordered every party to preserve records and set a full evidentiary hearing 7 weeks later. Mrs. Whitfield appears capable of retaining counsel and articulating her position, she said. The court also sees enough uncertainty in the property records to require an accounting. Neither side should treat today's limited ruling as a final determination. It was a victory with supervision attached. That felt more credible than vindication. The 7 weeks mattered. Through formal document requests, we learned that Meridian Title had never accepted Marcus as authorized to execute a trustee's deed. The cottage belonged to my revocable trust, and my personal power of attorney did not automatically make him trustee. The closing packet had therefore been prepared for my signature. A lender's internal note proposed investigating whether Marcus could sign only if title counsel later approved that route. Title counsel never did. The distinction removed one suspicion and sharpened another: they had needed me at Friday's meeting. Marcus's plan depended on presenting the LLC as routine, surrounding me with familiar faces, and obtaining my signature before I understood where the property would go. We also deposed the lender's loan officer. He remembered asking Marcus why the owner had not reviewed the transaction earlier. Mr. Whitfield said his mother became overwhelmed by complex documents after her husband's death, the officer testified. He said the family handled details to reduce her anxiety. Did he say she lacked capacity? Priya asked. Not directly. He said her good days and bad days were becoming less predictable. The phrase appeared nowhere in Marcus's emails before the loan application. After Camden's, it appeared 6 times. Marcus attended the deposition in James's blue tie. During a break, I saw him alone at the water fountain, reading the transcript screen where his own phrase had been enlarged. He looked toward me, opened his mouth, then returned to his lawyer without speaking. Renata's production contained a different crack. 3 weeks before my birthday, she had texted Marcus, "Ask her cleanly. If she says no, we stop." Marcus replied, "If we ask before the package is ready, she'll say no because it sounds frightening. Let her see it finished. One step at a time." 4 days later, Renata sent the scanned signature to Northlake. The messages did not absolve either of them. They showed how the boundary had moved. First they planned to ask, then they postponed asking, then they behaved as though the answer had already been yes. During those weeks Marcus called once to say he wanted to correct his affidavit. His lawyer ended the call before details were discussed and proposed a written amendment. The amended affidavit admitted the burst pipe story was false and withdrew the claim that Lily had reported memory loss. It did not admit forgery or misuse of funds. That was the first piece of truth Marcus offered when a complete confession could still cost him less. 7 weeks after the emergency review, the probate courtroom was smaller than television teaches people to expect. No polished mahogany, no jury, no gallery filled with gasps. Fluorescent lights hummed above rows of oak benches. A bailiff mispronounced our name and apologized. Marcus sat beside Renata. Diane was behind them. Lily was not there. At my request, the judge had reviewed her counselor's short letter in chambers and excused her from appearing. Judge Elena Brooks began with the petition and the independent accounting she had ordered. A conservatorship is a protective measure of last resort, she said. It is not a mechanism for resolving a family business dispute or overriding an inconvenient financial decision. Then she looked at Priya. Mrs. Whitfield's response since discovery is relevant. So is the fact that a valuable property went largely unsupervised for more than a year. Proceed. Opposing counsel called Marcus first. He described my grief after James died, the missed property tax installment, my reluctance to stay at Lake Wren, and the contradictory insurance answers. He said I had verbally approved limited rentals and later forgotten. Did your mother ever authorize use of rental proceeds to support Castellano matter? Counsel asked. Marcus looked at me. She said family should help family. That was not my question, the judge said. Not in those exact words, no. He testified that I had become suspicious, isolated, and fixated on documents. He mentioned the 4 place settings. Priya rose for cross-examination. Mr. Whitfield, at what time did you cancel your mother's birthday dinner? A little after 6. What reason did you give? A problem at a work site. Was there a problem? Not that night. Where were you? Camden's. Discussing her cottage? Among other things. So the 4 settings did not show confusion. They reflected plans you cancelled by lying to her. His lawyer objected to the characterization. The judge allowed the answer. Yes, Marcus said. Priya moved through the power of attorney. Marcus agreed he understood the self-dealing restriction. He agreed Wren Legacy Holdings was managed by his wife and registered at their home. He agreed he had submitted the power of attorney to the bank and supported the title order. Did Eleanor Whitfield sign the North Lake Management Agreement? I believed she had authorized rentals. Did she sign it? Number, did you watch anyone place her copied signature on it? His jaw tightened. Renata prepared the final version. Did you submit it after seeing the signature? Yes. Priya placed the proposed deed on the screen. What was supposed to happen at Meridian Title? We were going to explain the LLC and ask her to sign. Why did the title file include a certification by you that the transaction was in the principal's best interest? Because I believed it was. Why did the lender's notes say Mrs. Whitfield's recent memory variability might require execution by her attorney in fact? Marcus looked at his lawyer. You may answer, the judge said. I told them she had been inconsistent. Before or after she refused the transaction? Before she knew about it. The room went still. Priya let the silence remain. Opposing counsel recovered ground with the tax notice and my spreadsheet correction. Then I testified. Mrs. Whitfield, he said, you paid the Lake Wren tax late, correct? Correct. You failed to detect 20 events at your property. Correct. You told an insurer rentals were occasional. Based on false information from my son, yes. And 3 nights ago, you misclassified a $7,200 transaction in evidence you prepared for this court. I did. I found it, corrected it, and disclosed the correction. Does that not suggest you need help managing complex finances? It suggests I need an accountant for a disputed rental operation I did not authorize. I hired one. Your attorney arranged that. She suggested one. I interviewed 3 and selected Ms. Alvarez. He asked why I had left the power of attorney active. Because revoking it felt distrustful, I said. That was poor judgment. Trust is not the same as incapacity. Dr. Okafor testified next. Opposing counsel emphasized the missed word on delayed recall. Mrs. Whitfield forgot one of 5 words. She failed spontaneous retrieval and recognized it immediately with a category Q. In isolation, that result is common at her age and does not establish impaired capacity. Could she develop dementia later? Any person could. My task was to evaluate her now. Would a financially capable person overlook unauthorized events for 14 months? Capable people are deceived every day, particularly by trusted relatives with lawful access to part of their affairs. Her response after discovery, preserving evidence, consulting counsel, revoking authority, correcting her own accounting error, demonstrates intact planning and judgment. The bank investigator authenticated records and explained the review remained open. He did not accuse anyone of a crime. His restraint made the documents heavier. Renata testified that she believed Eleanor had consented in principle and that Marcus's authority covered management. Priya showed her the management agreement. Who placed Mrs. Whitfield's signature here? Renata's face went pale. I assembled the document from the files Marcus gave me. Did you tell Northlake it was scanned without her approval? I believed Marcus's authority covered the agreement. That was not my question. Renata looked at her lawyer. Why not? Because Marcus had authority. Because the property was idle. Because we were protecting the family. Protecting Eleanor Whitfield from what? Renata's lips parted, then closed. No further questions. Judge Brooks asked Marcus to return to the stand. Mr. Whitfield, your petition says your daughter noticed her grandmother's confusion. What exactly did Lily report? Marcus stared at the microphone. She said Grandma seemed lonely and kept asking about the lake. Did Lily say her grandmother forgot the birthday cancellation? She said Grandma thought we were coming. Because you told your mother a pipe had burst? Yes. Did you tell Lily the same story? His hand reached for the blue tie. Lily knew we were meeting Diane. Then the child's observation was not evidence of confusion. It was evidence that 2 versions of the evening existed. Marcus's eyes dropped to the tie. James had worn it the day Marcus graduated college. I remembered standing between them for a photograph while Marcus complained that the knot was too tight. The judge continued. Your original affidavit describes your mother as forgetful, irrationally sentimental, financially reckless, and unable to distinguish memory from present value. You have already withdrawn part of it. Do you stand behind the remainder? He did not answer. Mr. Whitfield? His shoulders moved once, a breath that failed. No, he said. His attorney touched his sleeve. Marcus pulled away. I overstated what I saw. Renata whispered his name. Marcus kept looking down. Mom never approved the LLC. She didn't sign the management agreement. I knew the signature on the copy did not come from a document she signed that day. His lawyer requested a recess. The judge granted 10 minutes and warned Marcus he could consult counsel regarding potential exposure before continuing. When court resumed, Marcus invoked his right not to answer questions about the preparation or submission of the signature. His lawyer had done her job. Marcus still answered the questions that did not expose him further. He admitted the birthday lie, the lender comments, and the decision to seek temporary control after I stopped the closing. He did not claim Renata forced him. He did not claim Diane invented the plan. That distinction was the first adult thing I had heard him say in weeks. Judge Brooks denied the petition for conservatorship. The evidence shows questionable conduct surrounding Mrs. Whitfield's property, But it does not show incapacity by Mrs. Whitfield, she said. It shows that others exceeded or misrepresented authority entrusted to her son. Any future petition must rest on materially new evidence of functional impairment, not a repackaging of this financial dispute. She ordered the temporary restraints on disputed accounts continued only long enough for the parties and bank to sort ownership, directed preservation of records, and referred the suspected exploitation issues through ordinary channels. She did not solve every civil or criminal question from the bench. Court ended without applause. Outside, reporters were absent. People pushed through security carrying unrelated griefs. Marcus stood near the elevators. "Mom." I stopped. "I'm sorry. I heard you. What do I do now?" The old answer rose automatically: "Call this person, sign that form, let me handle it." I pressed the elevator button. "Carry it." The doors opened. I stepped inside alone. 9 days later, Marcus gave the fuller account through counsel, after a cooperation agreement defined how his statements could be used. He described the sequence he had stopped short of giving on the stand: rental income would repay repairs, the manor would repay the rental account, and the bridge loan would repay everything else. Each time the gap widened, he treated the next transaction as the one that would erase the last. The hearing settled only one question: I retained control of my life. Everything else still waited in folders. 2 weeks later, we met for civil mediation in a windowless suite beside the courthouse. The mediator, a retired judge named Harold Wynne, moved between separate rooms carrying offers and increasingly cold coffee. Marcus and Renata first proposed that I absorb legitimate cottage expenses and forgive the remainder in exchange for their surrender of any future interest in the property. Priya read the offer aloud, then looked at me. "They are offering to give up an inheritance they do not presently own in exchange for money they presently owe." "Future inheritance as present currency," I said. "Marcus's favorite exchange rate." Our response separated the categories. Genuine cottage repairs would be credited after invoices were verified. Event costs paid for actual rentals would be reviewed. Unsupported transfers had to be repaid. Wren Legacy Holdings would relinquish every claim, North Lake clients would receive corrected notices, and all digital copies of my signature would be identified and removed from active vendor files. I would make no promise about investigations outside my control. The mediator returned 40 minutes later. "They say the payment schedule is impossible." "What schedule is possible?" I asked. He named a figure that would have taken 11 years. I took out the payroll ledger Diane had brought. "The manor owns a vacant rear parcel." Priya glanced at me. "Eleanor, I am not asking for it. A sale or long lease could reduce the debt without closing the operating hall." The mediator carried the idea away. Priya folded her arms. "You just found a path that may save part of Diane's business." "I found a path for repayment." "Those can both be true." I disliked how often people said that to me now. By dusk we had a framework, not a final agreement. Diane would market the rear parcel and unfinished wing. Marcus would contribute monthly from his company and personally guarantee a portion without pledging his house, because I would not solve one family injury by creating another for Lily. Renata would cooperate in correcting the vendor documents. Disputed sums would remain subject to the accountant's reconciliation. The mediator asked whether I wanted an apology included. "No," I said. "If one comes, it should not be a contract term." When we finally shared a room to initial the term sheet, Diane looked smaller than she had at Camden's. "You could have forced a liquidation," she said. "Perhaps. Why didn't you?" I turned the page toward her. "Because 19 innocent employees are not collateral either." Renata closed her eyes. Marcus signed without looking up. Outside, Priya asked if I felt victorious. I feel hungry. We ate scrambled eggs at a diner across the street. She told me about her father's habit of signing every family email "Please do the needful," including birthday invitations. I told her James once designed an entire kitchen around a stove we later discovered would not fit through the front door. For an hour, we talked about people who had nothing to do with the case. I had missed ordinary conversation more than I knew. Consequences arrived without dramatic music. The lender withdrew its commitment. Wren Legacy Holdings dissolved after resolving vendor claims. Marcus's company lost 2 clients when the dispute became known, and he sold a truck to meet payroll. The bank later settled the portion of my claim tied to 2 transfers processed after its receipt of the revocation, without admitting liability. Earlier transfers remained part of the civil accounting with Marcus and the LLC. Renata entered a diversion agreement after cooperating with the investigation into the copied signatures, paying restitution, and completing community service. The exact result belonged to the jurisdiction and the facts, not to my appetite for punishment. Marcus's conduct was addressed separately. His lawyer negotiated, the bank documented, and I declined to exaggerate. He had done enough without my improving the story. Castellano Manor entered a court-supervised restructuring. Diane sold the unfinished ballroom wing and the parcel behind it. The original inn and smaller event hall survived under a new operating partner. 4 employees left. 19 stayed. Diane sent me a cashier's check for the first restitution installment with no note. The second installment she delivered herself. She came to Lake Wren on a weekday when Teresa and I were inspecting the dock. "I wanted to see what all of us nearly destroyed," she said. I led her through the cottage. At the pantry, she read Lily's pencil marks without touching them. "Renata remembers counting quarters for the vending machine at the motel," Diane said. "I remember making sure she never saw the eviction notices. Children see the shape of fear even when we hide the paper." I taught her that losing a building was the worst thing that could happen. Outside, a loose shutter clicked in the wind. Diane looked toward the sound. "The manor was the first place no one could tell us to leave," she said. "When the bank threatened it, I stopped hearing anything except that old motel door locking behind us." "And you tried to move the lock to my door?" She nodded. "Yes." No defense followed. We walked to the porch. "I still think you could have helped sooner," she said. "You still think help was owed?" "Perhaps. Then we are not finished learning." She handed me the check. Before leaving, she noticed the shutter again. "Your lower hinge is pulling out." "I know. I have a maintenance man who is excellent with old hardware." I waited. "May I send you his number?" she asked. "You may." It was the first clean offer she had made me. I deposited it into the cottage trust account and hired an independent manager whose agreement required my signature on every event calendar. I chose to permit 6 small rentals a year, no weddings larger than 40 people, no alterations without written approval. Rental income would fund maintenance and Lily's education account. Before signing, I met the manager, Teresa Bloom, at the cottage. She arrived with a tape measure, shoe covers, and a list of questions longer than mine. "Which rooms are off limits?" she asked. "The upstairs study and the pantry door." "The door itself?" "No signs, hooks, screws, tape, floral wire, removable adhesive, or clever alternatives involving magnets." She wrote every word. "Maximum vehicles?" 12. "No parking on the pine roots." "Candles?" "Battery only." "Owner access during events?" "I will give notice unless there is an emergency." "Guests should not feel inspected." Teresa lowered her clipboard. You could simply stop renting it. I could. I don't want fear making that decision for me. For the first approved event, Teresa sent me the schedule, insurance certificate, vendor list, and final invoice. I approved each one. On the afternoon itself, I nearly drove up to check. Instead, I stayed home and graded essays for the adult literacy program where I had begun volunteering again. The first time Priya called this a sensible policy, I told her not to sound astonished. "I'm not astonished," she said. "I'm relieved you didn't turn the cottage into a museum. Neither did I keep James's boots in the closet. I gave them to a community theater that needed men's work shoes for costumes. I threw away the expired marmalade. The pantry door took more care. A carpenter filled the screw holes with wood matched from the inside edge, leaving the pencil marks untouched. I asked him not to sand away the shallow scars. I can make them disappear," he said. "I know." Lily visited in March with Miss Foster's approval and both parents' written agreement. I met her at the cottage. She ran her fingers over the repaired holes. "Mom says she's sorry." I believe she is. "Are you going to forgive her?" Forgiveness is not a switch. It is closer to physical therapy. That sounds like a teacher answer. I had a long career. We measured her against the door. She had grown nearly 2 inches. "Shoes off," I said. "I only cheated once. History says otherwise." I marked the line and wrote Lily, age 16. Beneath it, she added in smaller letters, "No shoes, verified." We made grilled cheese and ate on the dock wrapped in blankets. She asked whether her father would go to jail. I told her I did not know and that whatever happened would not be her fault. "He tells the truth more now," she said. "Sometimes it's annoying." Truth often is. He said he used Grandpa's tie because he wanted you to remember the best version of him. Did he say that himself? His therapist made him. I laughed before I could stop myself. Marcus and Renata separated for 4 months, then began counseling together. I did not ask for reports. Marcus sent restitution payments on the 1st of each month. Some were small. All arrived. He also mailed handwritten letters. The first was 12 pages and contained 17 uses of the word but. I returned it with the words circled in red. His second letter was 3 pages. It contained no but. I kept that one. In May, he asked me to attend one session with his therapist. I agreed after confirming that the purpose was not reconciliation on a schedule. The therapist's office had 2 identical gray chairs and a box of tissues positioned with such precision that I distrusted it immediately. Marcus sat with his hands between his knees. "I keep trying to find the first wrong thing," he said. "The signature, the first rental, the LLC." "Why?" I asked. "Because if I find it, I can explain how everything after it happened." "You want one cause. Wouldn't that help?" "It would help you." The therapist asked what I considered the first wrong thing. I thought about the hip surgery, the green folder, the letters I wrote for Marcus when he should have written them himself. There were many first things, I said. He accepted authority without learning its limits. I gave authority without maintaining mine. Renata mistook fear for necessity. Diane mistook her business for everyone's obligation. Each of us has a sentence we preferred. Marcus looked at me. "What was yours?" "That helping my son was the same as raising him." He cried then, quietly and without covering his face. I did not cross the room. Staying in my chair felt cruel for perhaps 10 seconds. Then it felt honest. "I was angry when you made me return the landlord deposit letter in college," he said. "You know about that?" "Dad told me you wrote it." He made you tear it up so I would handle it. I had forgotten. Marcus had recovered the deposit after 3 calls and a certified letter of his own. Your father was right, I said. He usually was after everyone else ran out of energy. We both laughed, and the laugh heard in a cleaner place. The therapist asked what contact I wanted going forward. 1 phone call on Sunday, I said. No financial questions. No messages through Lily. If I say I need to end the call, it ends. Marcus nodded. And what do you need? The therapist asked him. He took his time. A chance to do what I say without mom grading it while I do it. I nearly objected. Instead, I wrote the sentence in the small notebook I carried. Fair, I said. Our Sunday calls began awkwardly. The first lasted 6 minutes. Marcus described replacing a deck railing and stopped before asking whether I knew someone at the permit office. The second lasted 9. On the third, he told me he had lost a bid because he disclosed the pending financial dispute to the client. I wanted to leave it out, he said. What did you do? I included it. I waited. He did not ask me to praise him. How is Lily? I asked. Learning parallel parking. Our mailbox is in danger. By late May, the calls sometimes reached 20 minutes. He called when he said he would. For the time being, that was enough. In June, we met at a coffee shop. Public places helped us remain ourselves. Marcus looked older. Can I come to the cottage sometime? Not yet. He nodded. No argument, no Lily, no James, no payroll ledger. Can I ask again? Yes. When? That is still an argument. He almost smiled. Right. Before leaving, he put his old cottage key on the table. I should have done this earlier. I slid it into my purse. You should have. Outside, he walked to a used sedan instead of his truck. I watched him wait at the crosswalk though no traffic was coming. My 71st birthday fell on a Saturday. I spent the morning at Lake Wren with Lily. We made chicken piccata from James's card. She objected to rinsing salt-packed capers until I made her taste one straight from the jar. That's hostile, she said, reaching for water. Your grandfather ate 3 to prove he could. Did he? But he would admire the sentence. At 4, a car came up the gravel lane. Marcus and Renata stepped out carrying a lemon cake between them. Diane remained home. Her card contained Raymond Bell's number for the shutter hinge and, beneath it, only if you still want it. Marcus climbed the porch steps and stopped in front of the door. For years, he had let himself into the cottage. He once had a key. He knocked. Lily looked at me. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and opened the door. Happy birthday, Mom. Thank you. Renata held out the cake box. Lemon. We checked. Come in for dessert. The boundary was small enough to fit inside one sentence. No dinner. No overnight bags. Dessert. They entered. Marcus carried a narrow parcel wrapped in brown paper. Inside was an old brass door knocker, polished but not made new. A small card was tied to it. For a door I will always knock on. It came from the salvage place where Dad used to buy hardware, he said. You don't have to put it up. I turned it in my hand. The back plate bore scratches from another house, another family. We'll see, I said. Lily cut the cake. Renata poured cider. Marcus stood near the pantry door without touching it. I saw the repair, he said. The holes remain if you know where to look. I know where to look. We ate on the porch. Conversation stayed with ordinary things: Lily's driving test, the manor's smaller autumn schedule, a roof estimate for Marcus's current job. Once, Renata began, "When all this is behind us," then stopped herself. "It won't be behind us," she said. "But maybe it won't always be between us." I appreciated the correction. At sunset, they gathered their coats. Marcus waited while Renata and Lily walked toward the car. "Thank you for letting us come." "For dessert." "For dessert," he agreed. He stepped through the doorway, then looked back at the brass knocker on the table. "Even if you never hang it, good night, Marcus." He nodded and went down the steps. The following morning, I took out James's old toolbox. The screws included with the knocker were too short, so I drove into town and bought proper ones. I measured twice, marked the center of the door, and drilled the first hole. Lily steadied the ladder. "Does this mean Dad gets a key again?" she asked. Does he know that?" He knocked. When the knocker was mounted, I stood back. It looked as though it had always belonged there, scratches and all. Inside, morning light crossed the pantry door and caught every pencil line. I left the door open.